This is Matt Russell, and welcome to the Daily FX Forum.
So here are the 5 pairs that I will be discussing this evening: the Euro Pound, the Aussie Kiwi, the Pound Swiss, the Euro Swiss, as well as the Euro Aussie. So let's go ahead and pull up the charts. First chart is the Euro Pound. The short trade from 88.23 continues. I'd keep that stop at 88.75. During yesterday's report, I did mention a shorter term short entry at 87.75 with a stop at 88.10. If you did enter that trade, you were stopped out as prices did make a high of 88.16 during yesterday's session. That's okay. That's just part of trading, and hopefully most of you are in that original entry again at 88.23, and I would keep that stop at 88.75 as that 88.40 area should be stiff resistance over the next several weeks or even months. The next chart is the Aussie Kiwi, and as I mentioned during yesterday's report, the short trade from 126.40 did trigger. I would keep that stop at 127.10. There was a question last night on the forum in terms of the channel line here on top, and what happened is I was actually messing around with drawing the line on top here, and then when I dragged the line down to put it in its original position, that's why there might have been a little bit of confusion. And I just want to remind everybody that this line here, the resistance line that I'm using as a basis for this trade, is a parallel line to these lows down here, and that's exactly where the channel comes in. The next chart is the Pound Swiss, and not much has changed here. Just going to stay on the sidelines now, as the Euro Pound and Pound Swiss have been acting as the inverse of each other. So again, I'm just going to stay short Euro Pound, stay on the sidelines with the Pound Swiss. The next chart is the Euro Swiss, and same story here. I'm just going to stay on the sidelines as price action has been a little bit too volatile in terms of this candle here. Again, it's a borderline doji. In a normal world, I would have a long bias or against the low of this candle, which is 45.57, but again, the volatility has been a little bit too high, and it's a little too difficult for me to manage my risk. The next chart is the Euro Aussie, and again, the short trade from 58.75 continues. I would continue to stay in that trade. I mentioned during yesterday's report possible short entries for those of you who did not enter at 58.75 against the longer term resistance line here. Prices actually got within about 20 pips or so, but I did say in the report that I would need prices to actually kiss the line, so I'm not maybe some of you entered, maybe some of you did not. Regardless, I was mentioning the original short trade of 58.75 for several weeks, so hopefully you all got into that trade. And right now, tentative targets would be down near that 55 figure, so I might put in a limit right now at about 155.10. Again, my name is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening, and please stay tuned for a preview of the Daily FX Forums. I want to take this opportunity to formally welcome you all to the Daily FX Forums. I want to go through the process of how I personally access the forums and how maybe you at home, if you want to access the forums in the future, might do so. The first thing you would do is go to www.dailyfx.com, and that will bring up, obviously, dailyfx.com, and usually there on the upper right hand corner I'll go ahead and click on where it says forum, and that will bring up the first page of the forums. And this view, I personally don't use this view, but this view actually shows you the most recent posts on all the threads within the different sections, and a little detail about those posts, so you can read through and see if there's something catches your interest. But personally, I go ahead and just click on forums and view them in the more traditional sense. Now, these are different threads within the forum. There's a section on education, such as Daily FX course instructor tips, which would be good for newer traders, and then for more advanced traders. And I just want to go ahead, personally, the way I use the forums is I would go through the individual threads, just looking for trade ideas, maybe looking at charts, looking at certain lines that maybe I didn't put up on my chart, but another trader might have put up on their chart. I tend to, shy away from using direct trade recommendations from other forum members, but it helps me to sort of even out my analysis, make sure that I'm seeing things, with the right mind in terms of, I might be missing stuff that other traders can see, and that's my personal way of using the forum. Every trader is going to be a little bit different in how they use it. So if you want to ask questions, if you want to become an active participant of the members, you would have to go ahead and register. So that's what I'm going to go through now, is the registration process. So assuming you're brand new to the forums, or maybe you've been here a few times and you're not really sure how it works, so I just want to walk through again the registration process. This would be the front page where you would access, or the previous page. You'd have the same little box here on the left hand side. My username and password are already filled out here, but assuming you're a new member, you would click on where it says register, and that will bring up the registration page. If you give me one moment here while my browser loads. And actually first we're going to have some terms of service and DailyFX forum rules. I do suggest reading through the forum rules. Obviously, you know, profanity and spam and things like that are not allowed, but it also gives you insight on, you know, how to use the forum and how different traders can use it, you know, in terms of their individual needs. So you would go down to the bottom there, you'd click on where it says I have read all the rules, and then you would go ahead to the register, the formal registration page, and that will bring up here. And you can go ahead and select the username, and how about we'll use 4x, and that name is already in use, so maybe add a few more x's there. Again, it really, you know, your individual username is up to you, and you go ahead and fill in your password, your email address. Now, the most difficult aspect of registration for the DailyFX forums will be figuring out these letters in the box here. Now, I'm a semi-intelligent person, but I have a very difficult time figuring out which letters and numbers to use. Now, there is a reason for this madness. It helps with security, but I would suggest just going ahead and keep on clicking that refresh image until something comes through that you can actually identify and see. Then you can go ahead and enter your birthday, but you can decide whether or not to display that to other forum members. And then also, if you were referred by somebody, you can enter that information there. The time zone, that should default to your computer, but you should, you know, double check and make sure. And then you can opt in, and I would, you know, suggest opting in for these emails in terms if the administrators want to go ahead and send you some notices about the forum, and then you would complete registration. Now what happens is they would send you an email to the email address that you put up here, and that email will include a link, and all you would have to do is go ahead and click on that link, and that link will bring you inside the forum, and you would now be a member of the DailyFX forums. Again, this is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening.